All ready?
Yes, sir.
Evening, it's 5:00 something. How about 5:04 p.m.? 4 minutes later than our new starting time. For the Planning Commission, the City of Lancaster will come to order. Tonight, we have new toys for some, tools for others. They're called iPads. We're saving staff members time printing zillions of pages of agendas. Some of us are not too proficient, others are. I'm in the still learning category, so the meeting may not move as quickly as it normally does.
I'm here to help you.
At any rate, I have helpers. So bear with us if you don't mind.
We need a roaming tutor.
What's that?
We need a roaming tutor.
Yeah, we do. We do. We do. We had a tutorial for about 6 minutes, so that means everyone's an expert. Tonight, our invocation is being offered by co-pastor Dorel Arnwine, I believe it is, from Prevailing Word Christian Center. And then, Commissioner Cook will leave us in the pledge. If you please stand. So, do we have an invocator? No? Apparently not.
I can do it.
All right. Vice Chair Hall will lead us in the invocation.
And bow your heads. God, thank you for 40 years of blessings on our city. Protect our soldiers and first responders and their families. Bless this commission with your wisdom. Guide the staff that prepares these meetings, and allow everyone that came here tonight to get home safely. In your name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the flag pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Diana Cook.
Present.
Commissioner Miguel Coronado. Absent. Commissioner Drew Mercy.
Present.
Commissioner Cassandra Harvey.
Present.
Commissioner Sandy Smith.
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Hall.
Here.
Chairman James Bose.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Just give you a little background. Normally this commission meets the week prior to this regular meeting. It's for a staff briefing, and we meet here in this chamber at 4:30 p.m. on the second Mondays of the month. We do not deliberate, however, we do take staff input and offer our comments and direction to staff, but we do not vote nor make determinations of an outcome of this proposed meeting. Tonight, if we have any early speakers, we offer early speakers a couple of minutes to give us your input on any subject that's on the agenda. Do we have any early speakers?
None that have indicated, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Then any speaker who would like to address the commission on any agendized item is asked to fill out a speaker's card for the recording secretary, and then when the item is called, we will call upon you to give us your comments. Typically, the applicant is given an opportunity to address the commission for a length of time that the commission will tolerate. And then when the public has an opportunity to give input, then we also then will offer the applicant an opportunity to rebut if they care to do that. First item is our consent calendar, which is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 21st, 2017.
I move that we approve the minutes from the February 21st, 2017 meeting as amended.
Second.
Thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
Thank you. For the record, we've received a revision to the conditional use permit 1608 staff report, page 1, which was posted on the city's website. Identifying locations, modification of locations of adjacent mini-mart or gas station operations. We also received, for the record, a letter from Hunt Real Estate Group, reference CUP 1608, and which in effect is an uncontested letter based on the conditions, as well as CUP 1701. Okay, well, let's see if I can catch up on this handy-dandy little system we have. First item is the building placement setback requirements. Mr. Ludicky?
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, we gave you a relatively extensive presentation on this at your last meeting and received a bit of comment from you. We are requesting that you provide any additional comment or direction that you would have on this matter at this time. We are in discussion with the consultant who is assisting the city with the Medical Main Street project, who actually happened to be present at your last meeting and said that he may have some additional suggestions because they're working on similar types of projects in a couple of other cities in California. And I'm always one to see if we can get some additional assistance, particularly since it was offered for free. And I'll be more than happy to take free consultant assistance because you don't get that very often.
Is that Mr. Sargent?
Yes, it is. I've gave him a follow-up email to that earlier today, so I'll await any additional written comments that he have. Staff really has nothing more at this point, but depending on the length of any comments that you provide or any testimony that we receive this evening, along with any of his written suggestions, we may have a little more extensive discussion at your April meeting.
All right, thank you. Do we have speakers on this item?
I don't have any that have indicated this item, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Members, do you have anything to offer? Additional information? Comments from our previous discussion? No? All right. So we'll continue this to the next regular meeting, Mr. Ludicky?
Yes, I expect that we'll have either some additional information for you to consider prior to that time, or if we don't get a lot from our offer of help, then probably you will have in front of you largely what you've seen to this point.
Okay. So the action item would be without objection to continue it to the next regular meeting?
That's what I would suggest. The
right.
hearing is open. You left it open at your last.
Yeah, hearing's still open on it, sure. Any objections from anyone? All right, then. The next regular meeting. All right, the next item is safe routes to school. Somebody answer that phone? Was that my phone ringing? No. All right. We had this item last time as well. However, I still wasn't able to access the indicated website. Did that get resolved?
Yes, I hope so. I actually was able to access it earlier today myself.
However, this handy-dandy little new device we have doesn't access it.
Okay, we'll have to do some checking on that. So, from a staff standpoint, this item is before you as long as you desire it to be, to provide any comments or have any questions.
Well, I think that at least the typographical errors I saw in the report ought to be changed, corrected, to reflect the actual information that the school districts should have provided. So, are we in any urgency to adopt this?
No, as I said, I would prefer that the commission be comfortable with it before it goes forward.
Okay.
We did receive, or I did receive, one comment from Vice Chair Hall. I hopefully was able to respond to that adequately in terms of your question regarding the area around El Dorado School.
That's where I went to school, and you did.
Okay, thank you.
And just like last year.
Really? Boy, you grew fast.
Seems like just last year.
We missed you at the walk audit.
All right, anyone have anything to offer on this tonight? Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
I don't have any one that is specific, Mr. Chairman, but I do believe there was a gentleman, Jody Clark. Is this the item that you wanted to speak about, Safe Routes to School?
Yeah, I just want to know if there was any revisions.
Come right on down here by the podium.
Yeah, I just want to see if there's any revisions or anything like that since the last time. And is there any way, though, how we can get parking on 15th Street West for Desert View? Because it really overcrowds the other streets when there's no parking there.
Well, that's a question that I don't know that we can answer, however, but we'd appreciate your input relative to that matter. So
Okay.
you're concerned about public parking on 15th Street West?
15th Street West, which will get some of the traffic off our already overcrowded streets in and around the school.
All right. Anything else? That it? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Anyone else? The only speaker we have?
That's the only speaker's card I have for this item, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, very good. Okay. Members, do you want to add something? Oh, it came up. Well, good. All right, then, we'll continue this one until the next regular meeting as well. And hopefully we'll be in a position to adopt it. All right, the next item is item 4, which is a new public hearing. So without objection, the public hearing is open on conditional use permit 16-08. This is a request to construct a 4,968 square foot Circle K mini mart with fuel service, a car wash, the sale of alcohol beverages, type 20, off-sale beer and wine, which require a waiver for distancing from other alcohol beverage sellers as well as residential development. This is at the southeast corner of East Avenue K and Division Street. I believe we have speakers on this.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. we
All
do.
right, then, may we have a staff report, please?
Chairman Vos and members of the commission, the applicant is proposing the construction of a 4,900 square foot Circle K mini mart, 6,500 square foot fuel service canopy, and an 1,100 square foot car wash at the southeast corner of Avenue K and Division Street. In addition, they are requesting an ABC Type 20 license off sale of beer and wine with a waiver from the distance requirements in the SP 8002 zone. The project site is designated as commercial by the general plan and is zoned as part of the Lancaster Business Park specific plan. Per the specific plan, the project site is evaluated and permitted according to the commercial zoning standards. The project site is currently vacant. Access to the proposed development off of Division would be provided by a shared driveway located on the property south of the project site, and access from Avenue K would be provided by a new driveway in the northeast corner of the parking of the lot, designed to be used as a shared entrance, and would actually come in about right there and into the project site. The proposed facility would operate 24 hours a day with alcohol sales prohibited between the hours of 2 and 6 a.m. Distance waivers are required due to the proximity of two primary alcohol beverage establishments within 500 feet of the proposed project on the north side of Avenue K. Bootlegger's 2 Mini Mart is located directly north of the project site there, and the AM/PM Mini Mart is located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Avenue K and Division Street. There is also an approved conditional use permit for a residential project on the parcel adjacent to the southeast of the project site, which is within the 300-foot separation distance for residential uses. Staff has reviewed the proposed plan, and the gas station is in compliance with all development regulations, including circulation, parking, landscaping, and other pertinent details. Staff is recommending approval of the proposed project and is available to answer any questions the commission may have.
Okay. So our electronic agenda that we received, that we're accessing off of our handy-dandy new electronic tool, gives us an opportunity to highlight, make notes, do all sorts of things. However, revisions are made, it apparently deletes all those. At least it did on mine. So, I guess we need to sort out here how the system is going to work in future.
The Granicus system actually allows you to save any changes or notes that you take on the iPad onto your hard drive. We'd be more than happy to walk you through that in the next couple of weeks.
So then my point is, when this revision came out to the staff report, in effect, starts everything over, unless it's saved. iLegislate users only have a view access, so any changes will have to be made by staff. You can write down your notes as far as your recommended changes that you'd like staff to do, but we would have to make those changes. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking. No, I don't think you're not following me. If I make notes to the reports that the system allows you to make. However, when something new is uploaded into that particular document, it wipes out all your notes and all the other, anything that you've done relative to this. In effect, instead of handwriting it in this system, it's now in this system.
Yeah, I see what, yes. And because we
But it was a nice plane
changes-
ride from Denver for 3 hours, so I had a lot of things to do.
So because we made changes to the staff report, we uploaded a new document with those changes.
Wipes out
So-
the old document with all whomever wanted to put in activity on it.
So
Unless it was saved, however, haven't quite figured out how to do that.
We'll work with you on that one.
I don't think that's going to matter because it's a PDF flat document. So regardless, the changes that he made, regardless of you uploading a new document,
Shouldn't.
they're not going to carry over.
That's the point.
So you would, each time you'd have to keep doing a revision on the hard drive.
That's true, unless you have a full version of the Adobe, which the iPads do not. That's
Exactly.
true.
We don't have write, or we have read only.
That's
Right.
right.
Which is why I suggested, why don't we use our laptops, and then everything would be just real simple. However, we can't do that, we're using this. I just don't care to do double or triple work, that's all. So, yes.
At least your iPad is functioning. I wiped my whole one out because I entered my passcode too many times. So you're one step ahead of me.
If you take the document and you move it to your desktop, then even though it was a read-only, then can't you edit it if you move it onto the desktop?
Not in this. Anyway, sorry to belabor that, folks, but these are important items to the applicant. They're important items to the members of this commission, and we tend to do our homework. So at any rate, the applicant care to address us tonight on this project? Don't have to. We've got an uncontested letter before us, but it's entirely up to you.
I'm here to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman.
We may.
I do have questions for you, Jeff. Mr. Little, asking for waivers, the city has a couple of findings that have to be made. First, the alcoholic beverage establishment has to serve a specific community need. And so that would be my first question.
Well,
How does it do that?
How does it do that? I think convenience. I know I've sat up here before, and as far as all the larger stores, and this is going to be a model store. This is going to be almost a 5,000 square foot store. The applicant and the Circle K Corporation has taken upon a corporate store that's going to be far more than what you've normally seen in the past, and we've talked about this on past commissions. So we believe that with that, they're going to have a, like you said, fresh sandwiches, a complete little sit down in there. It's going to complement the residential stuff that's going in, where Penny Lane is going to be putting their stuff in. So we feel that with beer and wine, like anything else, it's part of their program, and their program is a dairy program, coffee program, food program, all the things that go along with it. So this is going to be the type of store that you're going to like. This is a 5,000 square foot store, which is going to have the amenities that a lot of the smaller convenience stores do not have.
You said that there was a sit-down area, and I assume that is to consume the food and the coffee, but it's pretty much specifically says in there that the alcohol is not consumed on the establishment. How would you police that?
Well, it's like all convenience store operators, or it's either an on-sale, off-sale. And obviously the doors are locked at certain periods of times. You always have your staff trained that, no open containers can be that. It goes along with any other mini market that they have in the Antelope Valley here. It's an off-sale. So on sale is not permissible whatsoever. It's following the guidelines that set forth that the city has put in place, and the hard work that you've put in as far as the new alcohol ordinance. So I think that the containers are going to be an issue as far as the size that they can do. So they're limited to what they can serve. Obviously, the malt liquors and the things like that, I agree with where the city's going with things like that. That's going to be obviously a restriction. But it's like anything else with the mini markets. You police it. I mean, you have cameras, and the more that you look at the facilities like this, there's more and more cameras on anything that we do now. So I think it's just training your people. All the people that work for Circle K Corp are very well trained, especially corporate operated stores. They're very strict. And I've stood up here before on Chevron USA units, and they go through a high standard, Vice Chairman. They look at things like that very strictly. So their people are very highly trained to combat that type of stuff. And when the hours of operation, doors can be locked. Not operation, the doors are locked, and then they can't get into them. So, and being within a store like this in this size, you're not spread out. You cannot, you can't advertise. It's in one area, so it's going to be easier to maintain and police.
I was just concerned because you're going to have food and beverages that they could consume on their patio away from the employees, and then one of the ways they could consume the alcohol without having it in a brown paper sack or in a can would be to pour it in their paper cup that they just bought for the drink. So I'm still not 100% convinced you're going to be able to police it unless you had some sort of procedures for determining that they're not going to sit there and walk out there with it. I don't. That's a difficult thing for any business to do, and especially since the first specific community need that you have is convenience. I mean, it would be very convenient for them to do that. So the other part of the waiver requirement was alcoholic beverage establishment is not expected to result in an adverse effect on adjacent property uses or residents. We have distance waivers for a reason, and that is to not have adverse effect on adjacent properties, uses, or residents. We have alcohol across the street. We have alcohol kitty corner across the street. And I'm just kind of concerned that there will be an adverse effect because we're going to have more and more and more of it. Down the street, there's multiple liquor stores. Those places don't have outdoor seating and food service.
Yeah, this is not so much outdoor seating. This is just the concept that when somebody can come in and get a sandwich, and I can understand your concerns, Mr. Vice Chairman, but I think that looking at corporate stores and what they've done, we've looked at these stores tremendously as far as security-wise. Even the ones that have come up before you and have really, really worked hard in making sure that there's no, how should I say, riffraff around, people hanging out, standing around this and that and everything else. So then they all serve sandwiches, and they all serve fast food items in a lot of these. So there's not an area, and if some of them have car washes, they could sit there and wait for their car, and I can understand your concern. But I think that that's the whole bit of the property owner. They've applauded on what the city has set forth with them, and they followed every rule and regulation. I think that's, so they've been standing on their merits by doing so. And it is a convenience, and especially if the stuff to the east that Penny Lane is going to be establishing there, this will be an establishment that will benefit both sides, and so I believe it is warranted as far as a convenience.
Thank you.
Could we have the site plan up, please? How about the floor plan of the building? Pardon?
It doesn't appear to have been loaded.
Well, can we get it loaded? I can access it. I'm just
What was that?
He says he can get
I can access it. My point is, we don't have it for the public to look at.
Joy, is there a way that we
Would
can
it,
get...
Mr. Chairman, would it be helpful if Lori Gaffner came up and?
No, not at all, Jeff. I'm thoroughly familiar with the site. I'm thoroughly familiar with the site plan, the floor plan, the circulation element, all of it. My point is, it's not available for staff to look at and for the public to view. Has nothing to do with you.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Hall pointed out that the waiver requirements, one of the conditions was eliminated from our existing Alcohol Beverage Control Ordinance 15-29, which limits the maximum floor area of the sale of alcoholic beverages to 5%. That condition has been eliminated. And why is that?
Because mini marts are not subject to that condition per the municipal code.
So how much floor space is on this one? In excess of 6%, right?
Correct.
Commissioner Hall pointed out there were a couple of other operators. Actually, there are 8 alcohol beverage sales operators within a mile of this site at the intersection in due east, including the Arco AM/PM Mini Mart, which you discussed, Vice Chair Hall, the Bootlegger 2, which is a full-blown liquor store that at the southeast corner of 5th East and K is the Valero with a Mini Mart that snuck in prior to our adoption of our control ordinances back when. There's a liquor store called Town Liquor at 6th Street East and Avenue K. At the southwest corner of Challenger and K, there's On the Go Market, which sells alcoholic beverages. There's Challenger Liquor at the southeast corner of Challenger and K. The Walgreens at the northwest corner of Challenger and K also sells alcohol beverages. And of course, the Vallarta Market, which is a purveyor of a considerable amount of alcoholic beverages. So, given that information, how do you justify the public convenience, since there's 8 other folks that sell the product, including alcoholic beverages and market-type product, food and beverage, within a mile, right in the traffic pattern you're serving?
Well, it's a good point, but I still believe with that being on this side of the street, with the median's going to be in with the proposed residential that's coming in, I think we're going to serve that need in that area right there. I think a lot of times when we look at areas that have been, half a mile down, 3 miles down, whatever it may be, a quarter of a mile down, or handling those areas. The last thing you want somebody to do is get and drive to if you got convenience. And I think that's one of the things that this establishment is establishing right there on this side of the street. There will be medians across being put up on K there, and so I believe it is. I know there's been a lot of projects that have been brought to me in the past that I'll shy away from because of that same type of point. On this particular one here, being the type of market it's going to be, and the size of the store it's going to be, it's a new concept, and so I believe that's in itself going to help that area and that particular project that's going to be going in just to the east of the adjacent. We've reached out to Penny Lane. They've endorsed the project. They're looking forward to it. We're going to be sharing access with them as far as off a division there, and so I believe it is a convenience for that immediate area right there.
You talked about Penny Lane. We have a letter from them. The transitional housing for 100 and ever how many units it was, 170 some units, 1,770, wasn't it?
No, I think it's
I believe it's about 75.
70, 75?
Yes.
Whether or not that's actually going forward, I know they got their financing structure put together. Whether or not they move forward, I don't know.
They're in plan check.
Pardon?
They're in plan check.
Are they? Okay, good. And that's for transitional housing for and those folks that are less fortunate in our community, right?
It's for veterans. It's transition home, help for veterans and their families.
Okay. So that's one sensitive receptor that will be developed there, and that's part of the reason for the waiver, right?
Correct.
And you have various charter schools, Learning for Life in that area down south. You have Department of Public Social Services for LA County and a number of other opportunities there that LA County has. You have the California Department of Correction Parole Office to the northwest as well. So you have a lot of potentially sensitive receptors in that area that you don't typically have in other locations, similar to the project that you had a couple of months ago there at 20th West and J. So this is completely different. Let's talk about the circulation element. One of the conditions is a secondary access on an adjacent parcel.
Correct. So they would have an access on the adjacent parcel to the east from Avenue K onto the project site, and it was set that far back to allow adequate distance between the left-hand turn and the intersection signal at Division and K.
So there's a raised median, a new raised median planned in K from the intersection east a certain distance, right?
That is correct.
And then further east, then the traffic flow would have the opportunity for a eastbound left turn into this project site?
That is correct.
What about left turn out going westbound?
There'll be no left turn out.
So how's that controlled?
They'll have to mitigate that with...
Pardon?
They'll have to mitigate that with the median, the proposed median. So when we look at that in plan check, we'll make sure that we're controlling the left out.
No, I'm talking about westbound left turn out of the secondary access. That's the floor plan.
Joy, this isn't working.
Site plan, maybe?
Because you're not on the presentation.
So
There you go.
here, they would have
Up in the
their-
top right.
Yeah, they would have a turn in here, but they wouldn't be able to go, it's one way. They wouldn't be able to go out and make that left, and the median that they're conditioned to put in would prevent that left-hand turn movement.
Correct. They'll have to extend that median far enough to eliminate the possibility of a left-hand turnout. So that'll be a left-hand turn in only.
So there'd be a left turn pocket then.
Correct.
So some 180, 200 feet long?
Probably not that long for just the entry into the convenience store. It could be a little bit shorter than that because it's not your signal where you need
So
to
there
wait.
there wouldn't be a westbound turning movement out of that site.
There would be a wet.
There would
No,
not be
there
a
would not- there
westbound
would not
turning
be a
movement
wet-
out
no.
of the site.
Correct.
It's all right in, right out, all the way.
Well, left. They can make the left in, but yes, right in, right out.
But exiting the site, it's right in, right out,
Correct.
all the way.
Correct.
Okay? All right. Okay.
And we do have the floor plan available now.
Okay, good. Thank you. So, the floor plan. Let's talk about the floor plan. So the highlighted areas, you've got something down in the bottom right corner that's highlighted, shaded. looks like a point of, not a point of sale, but some sort of a, I don't know what. It's shaded the same way as the alcohol beverage identified areas. So is that what that is?
What was your question?
I said, down on the bottom, right, got a little square there. There's a whole bunch
This
right.
here?
No, left. Little left of that.
10 square feet. 10 square feet.
Give me the pointer and I'll show you where it is.
It's next to the soda pad.
All the way to the right.
Right there.
Oh, okay, right there?
No,
Where the arrow is.
right. Straight down. What's that? Shaded the same way as the beverage sales shelf.
I'm not entirely sure what that is. It just, it looks like it's open. It says soda rack of the other squares.
I don't know.
Because the the wine storage is located here. I'm not sure what this is. It's not labeled.
You know what that is, Jeff?
I could ask Lori Gaffner, Mr. Chairman.
Whomever you want.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Lori. That is a wine cooler with a door on it. It's for the chilled wine. It's just the shaded areas on the drawing that are where the alcohol is located.
Kind of what I thought.
Yeah, so it's just a small 10 square foot cooler that keeps mostly the white wine that's chilled.
So are your the products you sell, are they corked products or screw top?
Depends on the vendor. A lot of the...
It could be both.
Yes, because of, as you know, the problem with corks. So some vintners use corks and some use screw tops.
Okay.
But they're full bottles. They're not the little mini bottles.
Well, we know, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the condition of the recommended approval.
Yes.
What's the purpose of the walk-in box for alcohol beverage sales?
That's for the chilled beer.
So what's the 3 reach-in boxes for?
Those are also, the walk-in would have because you'd buy it in the larger volume. The reach-in is the 6-packs, the smaller ones where you can reach in and take out the 6-packs. If you wanted to buy the bigger ones, you'd go into the larger walk-in. And then the 3...
So what do you do with all that floor space that's sitting there? All that empty floor space? They just get to wander around in it, huh?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Where do you have one of these stores in operation now?
This is a new concept that they're starting to roll out. The first one is under construction. It's down in Riverside County. I don't actually know the city, but it's just started construction. So it's their new one.
So there isn't one in operation that we could...
Correct. That is true. We have one going in Palmdale that is moving toward plan check, but it's not built. You can't see it at the moment.
Okay. So the reach-in box is for packaged beverage
Correct.
in the smaller
Package.
6-pack, whatever.
Yes.
And the walk-in box is for beverage of a larger kind.
Of a larger quantity, yeah.
Okay. And then the gondola sitting out there by the door to walk into
Those, the 3 little ones that make the little L,
Yeah.
that's more the room temperature wine.
Okay.
So we have the wine has the chilled and the room temperature.
And the point of sale area is?
They're straight in the back, the row across the back, so they can keep an eye on the whole store.
Rather than at the front?
Correct. And they have a whole series of cameras around, including inside the walk-in cooler.
So you haven't built this prototype, but it's been tested?
In what do you mean by tested? Because they haven't built one in California yet.
No, I'm just thinking about leakage. I mean, the proximity of the high-cost beverage to the front door compared to where the point of sale is seems a little, if I was an operator, I'd be concerned.
They prefer it, the registers toward the back, so they have that straight-on view of the front door, and it helps them there.
If somebody walks out, too bad, so sad, they're gone.
No, they can have a direct view to it right from where they are. It's not their, they feel like they have more secure control being in the open view of the store from the rear as opposed to from the front.
So how do you prevent pilfering?
I don't know that one can prevent all pilfering. That's, candy bars make it easily into people's purses.
Well, you're right across the street from a parole office. What does that tell you?
Well,
What is the part behind the point of sale system on the right-hand side?
that would be if this store had liquor, which it does not. That is where the liquor is behind the register, but we don't have liquor at this store. They also keep the cigarettes in the back as well, so that they can check IDs for those. And I wouldn't, you had mentioned the outdoor dining, Chairman, and
You can say whatever you like to.
that's an option. We can certainly not do that. It was in conversation with Penny Lane. We were talking about their clients and having a way, to go and grab something to eat, have a place to sit, and the thought that one could sit on I think that's the north side of the building, so it'd be a little more shaded and cooler than if it was, on the other side. And it came up as a idea of something that we could do to make it more friendly and more for people. It certainly doesn't have to be there, but we do have a security camera set up to be out there.
Go ahead.
Question for you and for staff, I guess. Is it possible or feasible to have a restriction that alcohol, if purchased, has to be taken off site, and as opposed to someone coming in, buying food, then sitting down, having their alcohol with them, but, a sign or requirement that, if you buy alcohol, you have to leave right away. If you just buy food, you can hang out.
Well, I kind of think of Costco. I mean, in that example, I look at Costco and
Well, you're not.
well, down in Santa Clarita, the one down there has outdoor, but I don't see.
Well, they're not selling six-packs either. They're selling
True.
cases
Yeah.
and larger quantity.
I don't know that having people sign something necessarily is going to be effective. What you could certainly do is add some signage that says, that expressly provides that it's off sale only, and they will be required to leave if they're drinking on site. I mean, I don't really know how that might get you any better control necessarily. I think it's going to be incumbent on the employees to just be vigilant. If there's a camera out there, they're going to have to be monitoring that camera.
Operators got to monitor it like anything else. Just because there's a regulation or a law or a consequence doesn't necessarily mean folks will abide.
So the access to the patio, there's no access from inside the store to out. They have to actually go out and around to the
Yes.
patio?
And you can't see it. There's no visual. That's a solid masonry wall.
Yeah, and
There's no
and
visual.
having employees constantly monitoring that is,
Not going to
believe
happen.
me,
Not
unrealistic.
Gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't
Not
think it's
gonna
going to happen.
So it's a nice idea, though, to have a outdoor opportunity for somebody to have their lunch or whatever. Particularly with, in that location, you've got, that whole row of pine trees that the assessment district put in there 20 years ago, or ever how long it was, long time ago. Wasn't it? Over 20 years, wasn't it, Brian?
Yeah, I think at least that long.
Tell us why you want to sell alcoholic beverages from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
That's the allowed time that we
The
can...
allowed time by the state of California.
Yes, right. And Circle K it's considered a convenience store, and that is kind of a standard convenience. When you're in there, you're expecting to find certain things when you go into a convenience store, and so that's why they offer it. They also
But this is
sell-
not a convenience store, ma'am. This is a mini mart.
Okay, sorry, I used the wrong choice of words.
It's a C-store
Okay.
in your profession, as was mine years ago.
Right.
It's a C-store.
It's
really a
convenience.
liquor store selling gasoline and selling and providing car wash services and providing all sorts of sundry items
Right.
that the public might want.
Correct.
It's really what it is.
I would disagree. I think it's a gas station that is selling items that the public
What
would want.
percentage of the volume would you anticipate would be for alcoholic beverages here? Of the retail component, excluding gasoline?
I can't answer that. I don't know that number.
You don't have a business model that tells you what it ought to be?
No, I'm the developer. I don't work for Circle K, so I actually don't know that number. I can probably find out, but I don't know it.
I'm just curious. I mean, it's, there's considerable effort to provide that product, or those products, I should say. Okay. So the recommendation is to allow the operation and sales of alcoholic beverages from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Correct, because that was the applicant's request.
Right. Okay. All right.
I have a couple questions. Is that okay,
You
Chairman?
can wheel them right off.
What state is the Circle K with this model operating in? That's already up and going.
They've just started construction now on a few stores. They're doing Texas, certain areas of Texas, the Southern California region, and their next set of stores will be in North Carolina. So I don't know off the top of my head if any of them are open in Texas. This is kind of a new model that all started about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, to get started and try to create this new model in these 2 states, or 3 states.
So we're not sure if there's any that has this model that's operational anywhere yet?
I don't know that, because it would be Texas if it is. I just am not sure if they're actually open yet.
Jeff, do you know?
I believe, like Lori was saying, Commissioner Cook, is that there's one under construction now in Riverside.
Yeah, somewhere down
Yeah,
there.
it's under construction. So to have this type of size store is a first.
Okay.
I mean, because that's what they're aiming for. And I know, Mr. Chairman, it is a convenience store. It is a convenience store. I hate to think of it as a mini market and a C-store type thing, operation, because those have all been based at smaller. And with your experience, sir, as far as back in the day, my experience in having those type of stores, I'm fully familiar with what those things are. So this is a new concept, and it's a concept that, that is going to be set in the norm for the major oil companies. And being company op, very stringent rules and regulations. And the side eatery was done simply because Penny Lane would love to have seen that. And I think this is a concept that, with cameras and everything else, and the way the industry is leading, is unfortunately and fortunately, the more cameras you have to have them. You have to multitask. And I think that you find out in the markets that have the camera systems and everything else is they're prevailing as far as keeping things safe. So I believe that this particular type of concept has answered the questions as far as the city's recommendations as far as what needs to be done. So.
What is the projected percentage of alcohol sales?
That's as many times, and what I'm finding out is the percentage of beer and wine sales. and beer and wine sales. I'm finding out to be a very small amount because it's all, when you're having the larger stores come into effect, the smaller space, everyone that used to think that this is going to generate a huge amount of volume and income. What we're finding out, it's more of a convenience than anything else. And you still have the Hostess Twinkies and the fruit pies that are outselling anybody and everything. You
So
have the
then
loaves of
maybe
bread.
the investment's not worth it. to do
It is.
the-
It isn't.
the
It is because it's part of their program. You know, and that's the national program. You're seeing all the majors come forth and say this is the model program that they're looking for. You know, so I believe that's the reason. And not believe, I know that's the reason why a lot of the majors are saying without this concept, we won't come into a market.
And then as a community member, how do you feel about the probation department being right there? What are your feelings on that?
The city of Lancaster does a darn good job. You know, I mean, they've instituted the rules and regulations. We have the commission who weighs on everything before it goes to city council and makes a heck of a lot of recommendations. We have the criminal justice commission that we get weight on. So, the probation department, I look at things that's coming down the pike that we would have seen on adopting some of these things that we've seen in the community. And I have not seen too many ill effects. Well, we're concerned more on what's coming down from our state level into our community. But, I believe that the way the city has set up the rules and regulations, it's put in place on the property owner, the business owner who's operating that they have to make sure that these things are safe. And that's the whole concept. The whole concept is the safety. People want to be able to make sure they can go into a location at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night and be able not to be harassed and not to be able to. And so that's the right, and that's put back on the property owner, which I think that's what should be done. And I think it's up to the way this system is put forth with this new commission and everything else is that it's putting the onus back on the property. And it should. And I think everybody wants a safe community. I don't believe it's I believe that you have to give and like I said before, I believe that every time you look at a store like this in this magnitude, I think it's right that let them have all the tools to do their business under the restrictions set forth by the city. And they were following rules with that. So I know there's blighted areas. And I know that the city's working diligently on those blighted areas. So I think that this type of concept and the way Circle K's tackled it, just like the major Chevron and everything else, they've taken a huge responsibility as far as keeping the community safe. So they put a lot of money into it. So
I have a question, and I'm not even sure if I'm right, but wasn't the store directly across the street, didn't that used to be a Circle K?
Commissioner Smith, you know what? You might be right.
The one that's all
the
bootlegger used to be Circle K, yeah.
And I think and I think that's right. And you can see now and the way Circle K is designed, they've eliminated a lot of stores in their system. New ownership, what I understand, new division has taken the hands of that and said, those are the type of the operations we don't want. So they have gone to the 2,500 square foot store, the 5,000 square foot models, and looked at it, communities, and that's what they're looking at. And I think the corporate side of the Circle K Corp is looking at a lot of stores that they're looking at that have been in the chain for 30, 40 years that are being slowly eliminated. Simply because of this new concept, because they can't keep up with the standard.
They're being left by Circle K, but they're not being eliminated
I
because
think
other owners come in.
Well,
and
that particular store, I can't answer for on that one there. It was probably built, and I think it was a ground lease, so they could have lost their lease at the time and then went and converted,
Right. Yeah. I think the same thing in the court cell on 50th. That was a Circle K too.
Yeah. I think it was at one time close to 7-Eleven too at one time. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So given the logic that you just shared with Commissioner Cook, then why didn't you apply for spirits on this since it's in your master plan and in your program. How come you didn't apply?
Because I don't think that's right. I don't think.
Well,
I
it's a
don't-
Circle K program, and you're pitching the program.
No, I'm
Jeff.
pitching beer and wine. I'm pitching beer and wine. I'm pitching beer and wine as part of the program, and I would do that, Mr. Chairman, when it comes to a convenience store that I believe that warrants, because that's part of a program. Do I think that Circle K should sell spirits? Absolutely not. Do I believe that anything right now that's being generated on a small scale? No. But yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't see that concept. Keep it in the supermarket. You want to keep it there, keep the spirits. But beer and wine is something that goes with the concept of the larger size scales of the stores. So.
Well, I'm still having difficulty wrapping my arms around the convenience of the community aspect with 8, soon to be 9 if this was approved, within a mile of the traffic circulation on the east side of our community, which has, the east side of our community has the higher criminal activity, misuse of alcoholic beverages and the like. I spent some time in that marketplace last week and the week before, and between the panhandlers and the hookers, it wasn't very pleasant. During the day, I didn't bother at night, but this is during the day. So,
all the reason why we should clean up that corner right there and put a nice facility in there like that.
it's not going to run the rest of them out of business.
I'm not saying
nor
to
would
run,
I,
I
nor
hate
would,
to run
nor
anybody
would
out
I
of business.
suggest that. However, I'm still trying to get straight in my mind the community need when there's 8 alcohol beverage sales facilities in the community now, and we want to add one more that really isn't selling much, according to you guys.
No, we're not. I don't want to go online and say that it doesn't sell much. Is that what? No, I'm saying that I think the industry average is finding out that when you have the whole complete package, that it's part of their package and their program. It's not like it used to be in the smaller day when the older markets were setting. There was a large volume of people coming in just getting beer and wine. Those days are gone. The new concept of the major marketer is a completely different aspect. This is part of their program. So it's not something that says that that's the only thing they're coming in for. We got to remember they have a dairy program, they have a sandwich program, they have a coffee donut program, they have salads. They have a salad program on this particular store. So that's the whole concept on a large store. There's more to it than just that aspect. And it's up to any store, any market, any one that's out there today has to police the outside of anybody walking into the store and picking up a 6-pack of beer, whether it's an Albertsons, whether it's a Costco or anybody else, to sit there and have the right to sit there and police it. They should police it, and that comes back on the store owner and the operation. Okay.
On the stuff I brought up earlier, I'm not against having this development here. Actually, I'm looking forward to having that corner developed. But the biggest problem I have is we were told this is a new model. And I says, I really don't like having a new corporate business model or program tried on us. This is kind of a worry to me. You said that you don't have any of them up and running. They're just in the planning stages. We don't have any kind of background on it. And as Chairman Bose points out, we have already 8 sellers of that. So I'm still having a hard time wrapping my mind around the distance waiver. But I would love to see it go in if it just wasn't for the beer and wine.
Sure, go ahead.
One of the things that this model was designed to address was people like myself. Like I would, and nothing against Bootleggers Liquor, I probably would never go in that store. I wouldn't feel comfortable. And so this store, all the the center gondolas that you see, They're all very low. It's very well lit, and there's a lot of space between each of the gondolas. It's not a crowded little store. As you can see, there's a lot of area, as you pointed out, Chairman Voss. And so it's comfortable for people to walk in and get their wine or beer and head home, after work. And that concept is one of that they were trying to address, is people feeling very comfortable, making sure the restrooms are clean all the time, and making a place that somebody would feel okay walking into, and not going into a more dark or a unwelcoming liquor store, let's say, to buy a bottle of wine. And that was part of what they were working on with this concept.
I still have a difficult time, though. It feels like if we turn down the project, we have to turn down the entire project because of the program. And the program is this store has to sell, or the corporate program is all their new construction has to have beer and wine. But as we pointed out, you have a liquor cabinet, and I'm kind of curious if that's part of the program in the future. But I really feel like I'm being held hostage to either we get it or we don't get it. And that's kind of a concern to me, is because we have rules, we have separation requirements, and yet at the same time, I want the construction. I want it done. I think it'll be beautiful. The stuff that we've seen, it looks great, but it still feels like I have a gun held to my head over this.
Vice Chairman, I'd hate that, and I've known you for a long time, and you've been an incredible businessman and patron of the city, and I understand what your thinking is there. But on the same token, I remember the days when we had the mini markets, and we had 7 or 8 of them. And I can remember the stories, Mr. Voss, you were in this business too. Those days are over. Those days are gone. I mean, those days of having that type of concept has been completely erased with the major oil companies, okay? And I can sit there and say that, well, you brought up an AM/PM. What are they designed to do? What's an AM/PM designed to do? An AM/PM is designed to do one thing and one thing only. That's sell gasoline. Put it as low as you can and get as much gasoline volume as you can. Their concept was not that. They got into the C-store. They blew up the credit card. They get into the gasoline business and pump as much as they can. They forget about the C-store operations, okay? And then it comes back, back and forth. Circle K has come back full circle and said, we're going to devise a larger store. We're going to make them look beautiful. They're going to have more grocery items in there. They're going to have a fresh sandwich program in there. They're going to have salads. They're going to have a little place where people feel comfortable to come in and sit down and grab a quick sandwich when they're on lunch. They're going to have a car wash, The eatery outside is a phenomenal thing for the Penny Lane people and the people around the area that could sit out in the days. It's going to be fully camerized, so they can watch it. That is the new concept, and so following what your concerns are, I think that's the reason why you guys have put everything in place, is to give those business owners those rights to sit there and move forward. Let them have the system that works that you've put in place, and it's been working on the newer. It's working on the newer stuff. It's put it back in the business owner's hands and sit there and said, we're putting these rules and regulations in for you, and even as hard as it may be, I wouldn't even come to you in the day when we had the mini market, Vice Chairman, and try to come across a mini market that we had back in those days. And I agree with you. That concept is gone. Today is a new concept. Larger stores, more grocery items, more convenience. It's not a rush in and out. Somebody can sit down, eat a sandwich, eat a fresh salad, whatever it may be. It's all convenience. Now, more grocery items. So I believe that this is the concept, just like Walmart going to the neighborhood stores. So we're looking at an upper scale, larger mini market. Who knows what's going to happen through the smaller operations. So.
And this is somewhere between $3.5 and $4 million investment in our community as well, right? How close am I?
You're pretty close. It's up past the 4, but you're getting there.
Well, I assume the site was held for a while.
Right, Mr. Chairman, you're 100% correct. It's way above that. and you know what it was like back in the day to build them back then. And I'm have my hands in some of the ones that are being built now.
Extraordinary.
I'm extraordinary. It's extraordinary, yes, sir.
I don't know that I'm not that crazy about that outdoor patio. I think that invites, especially if you've got, and you're saying, to watch the cameras.
Sure.
You've got employees working inside the store. You have people coming in from the inside who may not even be customers of that Circle K, just hanging out in that patio. I see it all the time in some of the nicer shopping centers around that will just plop down and hang out in the patio. And for the employees to be expected to go out of the store around to the patio to enforce any kind of rules, I think is unrealistic.
And like I said, we know that could be a concern, and so we wanted to have that on the drawings for options. If that is something that you're really feeling strongly about, it's fine to take it away. We would not want to take away the indoor seating, certainly that's, but the outdoor it's an offering. It's something that we were hoping would be perceived as a nice thing to offer the community, understanding that perhaps somebody might have that feeling that you have, Commissioner Smith.
Right, and I just saying, I do witness it all the time. I mean, I own a retail store, and in the shopping center I'm in, it happens all the time. Just people wander in from wherever and just tend to kind of hang out in the center with absolutely no business, doing no business in that center. So that is a big concern of mine.
Yeah, I'd add to that, given the proximity to the parole office, that's where a lot of foot traffic comes through for that area. This is for staff, I know it came up in the study session, did we get any feedback from Mr. Dorico or Public Safety Office in terms of concerns or input from Public Safety in regards to the parole office?
I spoke with Mr. Dorico about that. Mr. Dorsey retired recently, so we haven't been able to reach out yet to who is now kind of our point of contact. But Lee was very comfortable with the proposition that we would ask them to put in that same sort of requirement for their customers. I don't exactly know what you call them, and we'll do that. And I don't see any reason why they would not do that as they did with the ARCO.
I would be really interested just to have some contact with them before moving forward, in my opinion.
Can I clarify, is that probation or parole? Because it's two totally different things.
It's parole. It's the California
Okay.
Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, state parole.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, they call it rehabilitation. It's a kind word. Wonder what the next governor will call it. Let's just close all the prisons. What the hell? Don't do that anymore. Please be good boys and girls. What's your plan for the, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No worries.
I should be looking at you. What's your plan for the adjacent parcel?
The two parcels, the one to the east,
Yes.
they're both owned by the same owner. We are adding that secondary access road with the shared access that when that owner future develops, he already has his access road in. That's not part of our project.
I see. So you acquired that access?
Yes, to build, he is allowing us to build that for him for future, and then we both will share it and benefit from that as well.
A deal.
I'm sorry?
A deal, right?
Yes, exactly.
Good deal.
And
Yeah.
and the same with the Penny Lane access. We spent some time with them and making sure that they were comfortable with the access. We offered, in fact, to move it to our site if they would prefer. And I think you have the letter of support. They asked for some signage and some convex mirrors that we will be putting in ours to help them feel comfortable with that access as well.
And you are familiar with the condition that there will be no exterior visible signage, marketing signage for assuming you get approval for the sale of alcoholic beverages, advertising those beverages.
Yes, and one of the things that we do as the developer with the conditions is before I even come here, is as soon as I receive them, they go to corporate and make sure I try to point out all of those, that, especially that one, that's even specific in an email. Just want to make you aware, and they are, that you're okay with this. They were completely comfortable with that.
And the elevations of the exterior elevations of the buildings do not have your actual logo signage. It points out where they probably will be, but the actual configuration of the signage has not been submitted, or at least not submitted to us. That's submitted later to.
Correct. And that is it's just the Circle K sign. It doesn't say salads and beer. It just says Circle K.
Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything from anyone else? Good. All right. Thanks. We have other speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Sam.
Well, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman. How are you? Good evening, everyone.
To tell you the truth, I'm tired.
Me too. But I'll make it quick.
I flew in from Denver this morning, and it was a great flight.
How was the weather?
Beautiful. They're pretty high in Denver, though, I want to tell you.
I was there last year, and it is a beautiful city.
I mean, there's business opportunities there that you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we won't ever have those in our community, but you never know.
Well,
go ahead with your comments.
What I wanted to share with you is an overall or an aerial picture, and I have it on a flash drive. And it'll make it easier for the audience or everyone else, the public, to see what we're talking about. So if it's okay with you,
sure,
we'd like to put it up on.
That's fine. Well, it's two different things. Yes. This is the adult provision. That's cool. Go ahead.
All right. Well, what I wanted, I was hoping to get the picture up to discuss the overall offices in the area, I should say, that this development will have an impact on, or vice versa.
That's the same thing you handed us, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I just wanted the public to see it.
Good. Go ahead.
Circle K is highlighted in the yellow.
Right.
And I wanted to point out the parole office, 500, and to be honest, 562 feet away. They offer classes for parolee. They often you see 50, 60 of them hanging out there. The second one is Building B, which is Penny Lane. Well, what Penny Lane is, it's a mental facility for the youth. Okay, we're talking a counseling facility for the youth. I know the director probably signed on the project. They're getting a driveway, but I know a psychologist over there, and they're not very thrilled about having alcohol, right next to their building. Building C is Desert Haven, and I'm sure you're all familiar with Desert Haven. Commissioner Hall could tell us the wonderful work they do. They work with, what's the terminology for it? developmental disability, people with, yes, special people. And that is approximately 500 feet away. And, okay. Now, if we go down to building D, which is on the bottom, and that is, there is a school right there. It's the Gorman Learning Center from elementary to high school. They have about 300 students. Okay, now we go to building, if we go up a bit, that's building E. That's the adult probation department. That's where they do their drug testing, they do their classes, and you know, it's not the cream of the crops, same as the parolee. Now the next page, which is the next picture, if you would please, which is down the street, it's less than a third of a mile. It is the Juvenile Probation and Rehabilitation Center. They deal with juvenile. Now, I have all these reasons to say I think there'll be a lot of negative impacts having alcohol there. I mean, I love Circle K. You know, I bought some of their buildings when they were in financial troubles. I have good relationship with them. But I think having alcohol in that particular location is not a great idea. There is a lot of negative impact. Circle K is not offering anything new that AMPM is not offering. You know, AMPM has a coffee program, they have sandwiches, and, you know, they have improved necessity. Circle K, you know, fine, we want to come in, it's going to look beautiful, it's a big store. Well, we've already got 2 stores across the street. Do we really need a third one? And they're welcome to be there, but I don't think giving them alcohol is a great idea. I mean, even if we ignore our laws and, you know, waive the distance requirement. So they talk about, you're going to hear about, well, we'll stop selling alcohol at 10 o'clock. Well, 99% of the alcohol sales are between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. And I've heard sometimes they come in and say, well, you know, we won't sell any, you know, uncorked or, you know, twist top alcohol. That's a handful of products. That's probably less than $100 in sales a month. So those are some of the negotiating tactics that I've heard. You know, I've heard them say, oh, we'll just have 3 doors of beer and wine. Well, you could sell as much alcohol out of 3 doors as you could sell as 9. You just won't have as many facing, and you stock it more often. Now, as you said, Commissioner, do we really need another one? And, you know, when you asked Jeff, with all respect to Jeff, about the percentage of beer and wine, it is substantial. And that's why Circle K won't go into a location without beer and wine. You know, I mean, we're not going to kid ourselves. It's a profitable item for them. And, you know, we hear conformity. Well, what happened when 7-Eleven or Southland comes in and says, well, we want to put 10 stores and we want to have conformity? I mean, do we bend our rules for them? What happened if a mom and pop guy comes in and says, well, I want to put a store? We tell him, well, no, we can't put you in because you don't have to have conformity. So I see a lot of issues with this. Like I said, I have great relationship with Circle K, but I don't think it's a good idea to give him beer and wine at this location. I head the Alcohol Sale Business Improvement Committee, and we're working with the city. Jocelyn, thank you. And we're trying to come up with ways to reduce our nuisance, our problems with alcohol. And I don't think, you know, adding more alcohol outlets is going to improve our situation. We're trying to come up with ways to improve our community. And, you know, we have laws and they're there for a good reason. And I think, you know, if we comply with our laws, we should be good. The laws should be above everyone else. And that's all there is to it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
What was your name again?
Sam Alsher.
Thank you, Sam.
My pleasure.
Have another speaker?
Jack Hanna.
Who was that? I'm sorry?
Jack Hanna.
Oh, Mr. Hanna, welcome.
How you doing, sir? So I'm Jack Hanna. I'm also with the Alcohol Sales and Business Improvement Committee with Sam. We've been working with Jocelyn and Toy and Lee and some representatives from the Sheriff's Department, from the ABC. The committee was formed at the mayor's request to work with city to create a better working atmosphere with the alcohol establishments in the city. And specifically, we're working to combat issues of public nuisance and public intoxication on and around our facilities. We had our first meeting last week. It was really well. We have a great outline that we're going to move forward with. But the only concern we have now is we haven't even had a chance to implement our plan before we're introducing potentially 4 new locations in Lancaster. This one being just one of them. I'm not speaking specifically to this location, but I'm just concerned that I'm concerned that it might exacerbate the problem before we even have a chance to work on bettering it. And, the other concern I have that Sam addressed is the exemptions for the 1,000 feet for the establishments being near each other. I just wanted maybe some clarity on which circumstances justifies the exception. So those are my 2 concerns.
All right, very good. Thank you for your comment.
Can I ask you a question really quickly? Are your opinions your opinions, or are they the opinions of the committee? Are you representing the committee? And
I'm
how
here
many
with the
people
committee, but they are my views as well.
Right.
Yeah,
and how many members are on that committee?
So far, we have 3 store owners, 2 brewery owners, and Jocelyn, Lee, and Toy.
Okay.
And actually, Marie right here.
And
Fran.
Fran as well.
Oh, okay.
There's 8 people on the committee. And,
Okay.
soon to be 9. Superior Grocery is joining our committee.
Okay, I was just wondering if you were speaking on behalf of the committee or on behalf of just 2 individual members. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thank you. You have other speakers? No? All right. All right, then.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Earlier, when we were talking about Penny Lane, we asked, I believe, either you explained it or someone asked what Penny Lane was, and you said it's a military facility. It serves military families? Veterans. I'm sorry, veterans. And I actually, handy Google, and I'm reading about it right now, and it says it's a psychiatric emergency walk-in services, persons with co-occurring mental and substance abuse disorders. True or not true?
That came from.
There's actually 2 separate Penny Lane. So the existing Penny Lane to the south is a counseling center, but it's not subject to the distance requirements under our alcohol ordinance. The Penny Lane facility that is being constructed to the east of the project, or southeast of the project site, is a residential facility for veterans.
Okay, but the existing facility now they do treat substance abuse.
Right, it's a counseling center, so it's not subject to there are no distance requirements in the
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood exactly what Penny Lane was, because I think just saying veterans might be a little narrow.
I have a question for staff, kind of specific to this, but also in general. When assessing a project like this that requires a waiver, is there a quantifiable formula that you use to determine whether it meets that, or is it a general sense, or however that is, if you can explain kind of that, and then how this fits into that as either through precedent or other reasons to justify a waiver?
Yes. First of all, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a quantified type of evaluation. The distances themselves obviously are quantifiable. This amount of distance, this amount. But the evaluation is based on more qualitative factors. And they include some of the very issues that the commission has discussed or some of the members have brought up, including public necessity and convenience, the issue of is it going to adversely affect those sensitive uses that the waiver distances or the distance requirements were put in place to establish or protect. So those are the qualitative types of things that you're looking at, and I think certainly from the commission standpoint, I've heard that discussion this evening already. So I think you guys are properly exercising the discretion that exists in the code, and it was certainly intended to try to allow situations where even though something might not meet a, in some cases somewhat arbitrary distance, that you didn't impinge upon a use that you might actually want to have in a particular location simply by the operation of those distance requirements. It's a kind of a safety valve, if you will, which is a pretty good feature of most thoughtful codes, I would say.
All right, thank you. So we have no other speakers. The applicant has an opportunity to rebut if they care to add anything further.
Just a couple things, and is that I think Mr. Asher brought up a point of we're well saturated as far as convenience, as far as this. Like again, Circle K is a completely different concept, completely different than an AM/PM. Okay, completely different than the hard spirits across the street. They've demonstrated. He made some comment as far as demonstrating that he's dealt. I can tell you for a fact he hasn't been dealing with Circle K since their new concept and their whole new program has come into effect, and the owners that are involved. So we're asking the commission to look at that. If they were talking with Lori, and if the outside eatery area is a concern, that could be withdrawn from the whole project itself. But all in all, the concept is secure. It's designed to be that way. It's designed to put it back on the property owner and their rights as far as limiting them to what they can do, what they can't do. And comparing them to an AM/PM, there's no comparison. Okay, and they will not carry the same items of the quality and the size of the store. So. Comments were made as far as dairy program, this and program and everything else. They're all right. But this also is going to have well-stocked fresh sandwiches and salads where people can come and get their lunches and things right there that are made right on site. So new concept, good concept, something that the city should be excited to look at. And I think it's part of their program of having all of it together. So I don't know if...
No, and again, I just would, back to my comment before, is that one of their goals was to appeal to somebody who doesn't necessarily want to go into a liquor store or a crowded convenience store and feel uncomfortable. They're trying to create an environment that is a comfortable environment to shop in and grab those things that you might want before you're headed on home for the evening or such.
No, Ms. Gaffney and Mr. Little, thank you very much for your comments tonight. We appreciate them.
You're welcome.
How this turns out tonight, whether we decide to vote on it tonight, I'm not sure. We've heard a lot of input from you and from the community, so we've got a little bit more to consider, I think, before this moves forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you.
So, no other public comment? None? All right, then. So without objection, the public hearing is closed. We've heard a lot of information tonight. And I remind myself that we rarely negotiate conditions or requirements of development or puts and takes from the dais. More often than not, if we have concerns, we'll express them to staff and send it back to the staff so they can deal with those issues. However, I'm prepared to vote on this tonight. That may not be necessarily the vote that the applicant wishes. So may I suggest that if you have concerns about the exterior dining, if you have concerns about beverage sales or any of those issues, maybe we should express those and suggest that staff relook at it. If that's...
I'm prepared to vote.
You're prepared to vote on?
Yeah, and I think I'm just kind of feeling, take out the part where you said you felt held hostage. I don't feel held hostage. I feel badly for Circle K with the timing of this, because as these gentlemen pointed out, there's a committee that the mayor had asked to be put in place to deal with these issues we've been dealing with, for quite some time. And I think it sounds like just such a great project, and I agree with you. It's all in the timing. Unfortunately, as they stated, they haven't even had an opportunity to kind of get up and running before we've had 4 projects come before the Planning Commission for approval or for consideration. So this to me, and just the surrounding agencies and what they do, it's this is a tough one.
I love the outdoor area. I think that would be great. But the problem is we're not angels, and we're going to have problems coming down because of that. And because we aren't angels, we have codes and quantifiable codes that you brought up, Commissioner Mercy. And that's why we have those requirements, is because we have to follow certain guidelines. I realize the number one reason was convenience, but it's hard to see convenience when there's 8 other places. So
my only consideration there in terms of convenience is not the beer and wine, but something that is more of a challenge, particularly in the central part of town, which is access to fruits and vegetables and items that aren't just in one of the smaller convenience stores. That was kind of touched on, but I don't feel like I have enough information to use that as a justification at this time. I kind of would like to get some more information, get the public safety input, at least for my part, before voting.
Another thing I'd like to bring up is I feel that, I'm speaking for myself, is that we have to look at consistency with the distance requirements. I believe that consistency and the things that are in place for a reason, for safety. And out of all of the angst and all the other CUPs that have been in front of us, formed this alcohol committee to be an oversight so that we do things in a safer way for our community. And I don't feel that it's been consistent up to this point. The mom and pop, I don't think, has the same advantage as a corporate. And that's a personal statement.
Anything further? So what's your pleasure, folks?
I move that we adopt resolution number 17-07, approving conditional use permit number 16-08.
I second that.
All right, moved and seconded. Anything further? That's for approval as recommended, without any changes. That's your motion.
Yes.
All right, please vote. Motion failed.
Motion fails, 6-0.
All right. Anyone want to reconsider? All right, then. So the opportunity to appeal the Planning Commission's decision you're well acquainted with. Next item, item 5, which is conditional use permit 17-01. this is a request for adding on-sale beer and wine at a bona fide eating place, an existing, I believe, bona fide eating place. So we have received a letter in acknowledgement of the conditions of approval. Do we have speakers on this?
You have one speaker listing as favoring.
I beg pardon?
You do have one speaker listed as favoring.
All right, very good. You want to have a brief report then, please?
The applicant is requesting a Type 41 on-sale beer and wine for an existing eating place alcohol beverage license. They are located on Elm Boulevard, directly across from Beck's, in the downtown Pacific plan zone off of Lancaster Boulevard. This is an existing restaurant, and this would just be in addition to their current operations, and they are requesting alcohol sales from noon until 9 p.m.
Notice from their application, the hours of operation of the sale of alcoholic beverages seem kind of odd to me. I mean, it's their business model, I suppose. But
That's correct. They had listed alcohol sales from 6 a.m. to, I believe, 9 p.m. The planner went back to the applicant and asked them if that was actually when they wanted to sell alcohol, and the response was no, those were just their open hours. And they requested to sell alcohol originally from 3 to 9, but for the sake of ease and convenience, staff made that noon to 9.
okay. So for the lunch and dinner hour, if you will.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions from anyone? Do we have the speaker, please?
Yes, Merle McClernand.
Merle, welcome.
Well, that was an interesting discussion.
Which one?
This was the last one.
Oh, this one we're talking about now?
No, the previous one.
Oh, the previous.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I can see that because I'm on the committee with them, and there's some challenges. You got to confront them. This one, existing restaurant, beer and wine, afternoon, evening, and they actually close kind of early, which makes it kind of nice. I'm really here just to answer any questions if you have any.
Really an insignificant part of their business model.
Yeah, not really. It's
Necessary, but
It is necessary, but it's just acceptable on the boulevard. And beer and wine only.
very good. All right, anything further? Anyone?
No, there's cards.
All right. So we'll close the public hearing without objection. Consider a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 17-08, approving conditional use permit number 17-01.
Thank you.
Second.
Smith, thank you. Anything further? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our action items. Director's announcement, I should say. Do you have any announcements, Mr. Ludicky?
Yes. Just to highlight for the commission, you had approved a solar project several months ago. The city council took that up last week at their meeting on appeal. They did vote to uphold the planning commission's approval of that project, but did also indicate their expectations for some coordination as that project moves forward with the members of the Antelope Acres community that objected to it. And then just so that you as a commission are aware, you are aware that the council did in fact adopt a second reading for the medical cannabis cultivation ordinance. As a part of that, they added manufacturing to that ordinance.
What does that mean?
that's basically using cannabis to create oils and other kinds of substances through industrial manufacturing processes.
Question, would that include food products?
Does that include
It
that?
doesn't actually cover the creation of food products. This is more the manufacturing of the oils or putting cannabis into other forms so that it can be used for putting into food projects, but they wouldn't be manufacturing it there.
Go ahead.
And with that ordinance becoming effective in just over a week, we are currently working internally as staff, setting up the procedures and processes for how those applications would be received and how they would be dealt with. One of the things that the City Council did do, you may recall that as a commission you had a provision in the draft ordinance that you reviewed that gave permission to limit the number of facilities. I believe, as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a limit of 10 that was adopted. However, the council's direction to staff was only 5 to begin with. So there's going to need to be a system for how that is determined.
Has that been resolved?
We are in the process of resolving that procedure internally. Why is all this important? Because you as a commission are likely to see conditional use permits within the next few months in regards to those facilities.
And the commission still has discretion?
Yes.
Because they are conditional use permits?
Yes.
So the primer you're going to put together for the roadmap for us in your spare time while you're trying to figure out how you're going to do a lotto for the applications, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't use that word. I think that's
not a proper word to
use.
A method.
However,
a method.
I think you raise a very good point, and I think it will be incumbent on us as a staff to give you some briefings on how that process is going to work in case that becomes some
Well, it's a
kind of an
complicated
issue.
ordinance. It's very complicated. You're going to mention the non-second reading of the ordinance that the City Council didn't consider last time?
I wasn't involved in the drafting of that ordinance, but at the previous meeting, an ordinance was introduced to prohibit all non-medical commercial marijuana activity to the extent allowed by state law. So that, in other words, individuals are allowed to grow up to 6 plants inside their home. Everything else that has non-medical marijuana commercial business of any kind would be prohibited throughout the city. If I recall correctly, there was a public speaker who made some comments about if the city completely banned non-medical business activity, we would lose out on our share of the taxes being imposed under the state scheme. I believe that staff was directed to look into that and try to get a sense of what kind of numbers that would be. I'm not involved in that analysis either, I'm afraid, so I don't have any update on that. But I presume that that'll be coming back for an update to council at the next meeting.
Some of the other activities, notwithstanding those that you just mentioned on that first reading, that introduction, we have in the community, what do they call them? Hookah lounges, right? And various other kinds of venues. I listened to a Board of Supervisors meeting recently where the discussion of regulating or allowing, non-regulating, the consumption of marijuana product in restaurants as part of the, the product that could be sold and consumed in restaurants in the county. And I'm not sure that first reading of the ordinance that was continued last city council meeting addresses those issues, and maybe we should be looking at that as a commission.
It's not a bad idea for the commission to look into it just on a general level, but I think that the argument could be made, at least for purposes of the immediate future, that that selling foodstuffs that are infused with cannabis in some form or another at a regular restaurant would be considered commercial non-medical marijuana activity.
Oh.
I think the argument could be made. Having said that, I think it's probably a good idea for us to get further information about that, what's actually out there and people are doing, so that you can make a specific determination about that.
All right. The reason it's in the forefront of my mind, I jokingly said I spent a little time in the Mile High City, and they were very high there. Well, it is true. The recreational marijuana business, for lack of a better way to describe it, in that community is an extraordinary activity. You're talking about retailers on nearly every corner. You're talking about growers here or there and other places, and consumers utilizing the product on the city street, even though they have regulations and ordinances and laws that says you can't do it. But law enforcement is, there's not sufficient law enforcement to enforce that in their community, and that's and the high-end portions of the community, the high-end shopping areas and restaurants and bars and those kinds of things. Very similar to our boulevard, in a much larger scale, but very, very, very similar. And I'd be concerned about that. And I don't know what we need to do or should even be addressing those issues. It's a problem. Kiddingly, I interviewed police officers, transit cops, retailers, people that I came in contact with, just asking questions about the activities in that community and the risks and the misuse and the blue haze down the boulevard. I mean, literally. You'd think it was fog. It's not. It's the consumption of that product. Go ahead.
One of the things that we're preparing for, putting on my other hat with the Board of Equalization policy, we really don't know what's going to be sold medicinally, what's going to be sold recreationally. Right now, it costs about $50 to get a annual card saying you need it medicinally, and there's no real quality control on who gives those out. I know that's been something that was discussed at council, and it's something just out of everyone's control. So essentially, if somebody's buying more than $10 a week worth of cannabis, there's a financial incentive to go get that card, which then takes away all the sales tax, because then it becomes a medicinal purchase.
Great. Grazing. How we doing on the grazing? The sheep grazing and other critters?
We will be bringing something to you in April.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. All right. Anything else for the good of the group? Good job. 5 minutes to 7. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We're not done yet. Oh. I didn't see that yellow card, Brian. So we have public business from the floor, and we
Yes.
have a speaker.
Yes,
And who'd that be?
that would be Fran.
Well, Fran. Welcome.
Thank you.
Come say hello.
Good evening.
Hang on a minute. Let Brian move the podium down so we can hear you.
Podium down, or you just want to speak this way?
That'll be fine. I just have a few questions.
Sure.
I'm also part of the Alcohol Safety Committee,
Yes.
and real quick, because I know y'all want to go home. I got it on my computer, but I couldn't make a copy of it, and so I didn't have time to study it. So I'm glad it went the way it did, to be honest with you. But my questions were, under the solar panels that are existing now, because when I went to Kaiser, they have a field right next on 15th Street, and what I noticed underneath the panels, there's a bunch of weeds. Who takes care of all the vegetation and the weeds after you put up the panels? And
Actually,
is that under their...
Actually, the benefit of the vegetations under the panels prevent ambient dust.
Oh, right, that's true, yeah. Yes,
So
that's true. So that's a good thing.
I think we would all prefer to have the dust controlled, even though
definitely.
Even though
Yes.
it looks like weeds, but
Okay, that answered that question. Then I'll get to my next one. Is there
are they getting harder? Are these hard questions?
No,
Okay.
there's questions that I had in my head that I want to ask, and that
Okay.
I don't know if I should ask it here or go to the city council meeting. Is there a city master plan program for Lancaster,
Yes.
per se?
Absolutely.
Where would I be able to see it and look it over?
You can actually access it online on the city website.
Okay, on the city website?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Next question. I understand, there again, I'm in between everything because I read everything halfway and do something else in the other. What's going to be going on 10th Street and I know that about a year or so ago, you were going to clean up all that little shopping center in there that Vallarta was, not Vallarta, yeah, Vallarta was. What's going to be going on in there now? On 10th, West...
Well, Mr. Ludica will have to tell you that.
The city has been looking into an improvement project for Avenue I. We are currently in discussion with the property owners and the business owners along the stretch of Avenue I from 10th Street West to 15th Street West, because quite frankly, we need their support and their involvement if that's going to be able to move forward.
So that's kind of in limbo right now, I guess. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you very much for listening to me and giving me the time.
We're happy to listen to you. You're always positive.
And God bless you all and have a nice evening and be careful going home.
Yes, ma'am, we will.
And
Thank you.
I love your tiara.
Oh, that's another.
Beautiful.
It's a reason for me to have this. I was nominated and I won.
I heard.
I'm your senior of the year.
Congratulations, I did hear that. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's why. So when I do some public
You need a
stuff-
sash too then.
Yeah.
You get a sash.
Well, I didn't give me one, so.
I do love tiaras.
Thank
I
you
do.
very
I
much
really do.
for everything. God bless you all. I guess I can go home now?
You can.
Okay.
Spoken like a queen's mom. Oh, I know. All right, anything else, staff? No? Members? All right, thank you all. Appreciate your work tonight. Thank you. And we're adjourned until whenever the heck it is. Whatever it is. Our next meeting, whenever it is. I have it written down somewhere, but I lost it. April 10th, right?
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Right.
At 4:30 here in this chamber.